On the screen, there's a nice painting or illustration of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu dancing along with kirtan, chanting, dancing. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, as we all know, he's Krishna himself, teaching how to fulfill the instruction that Krishna gave at the end of Bhagavad Gita. The final instruction of Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, let's say it together. Sarva-dharmam parityaja mamekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarva-bhavebhyo mokshayashyami ma shuchaha. Because we just observed Gita Jayanti, you probably all heard or someone spoke about or you spoke about 1866 Bhagavad Gita. However, as you know, after Krishna left this world, what happened? A little juncture of time between Dwapara Yuga and the beginning of this bad time, Kali Yuga. So Krishna began to consider, how are people going to understand and live according to the teaching of Bhagavad Gita? Because it's Kali Yuga and all qualities diminish and so forth. And what better way than I come myself and show them how to? Because Bhagavad Gita teaches how to, but showing is even better than but just speaking. So he came. And he gave the Yuga Dharma, the chanting of the holy name. Now many of you know, he didn't write books. It's pretty unusual. What he did was he gave teachings to disciples and told them to write them, not just told them, empowered them. Especially Rupa Goswami, it's like really nice. A to Z, the scripture, and explaining the advent of because we know from Bhagavad Gita, Janma karma cha me divyam evam yoveti tattvataha chakva deham purnar janma naitima meti sarjan. So it's more than just information, because we all have the information. More or less, we have the information about the transcendental nature of Krishna's appearance and activities. So if it's so simple, then we're all going back to Godhead, right? Really? So there's something more to understand the transcendental nature, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu revealed it to Rupa Goswami, who wrote it in his writings. Particularly Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu and Ujjvala Nilamani, the sequel to the science of bhakti. So through bhakti one can understand Krishna. But to get to that stage where the transcendental nature can be fully understood, that the heart has to be cleansed. Small thing. Small thing. Heart has to be cleansed. Piece of cake, right? Why isn't it happening? Why is it happening? How many, it's a universal, I sometimes travel, probably more than I should. And one of the common questions, articulated in different ways, but the essence of the question goes like this. I'm chanting, and I'm reading, but I don't feel I'm making so much progress. If I asked for a show of hands, how many would say that fits them too, and that everyone's hand will go up? I was before coming here, I was in Detroit, and there was like a half an hour discussion on that topic. Somebody that's been practicing Krishna Bhakti for some number of years, 15 years, something like that. And that was the topic. So, new people, medium people, advanced people. Where's the transformation? Or the getting to the transcendental realization of the divyam nature of Krishna's appearance and activity. So it takes purity to understand those things and to realize, because Krishna will impart, he's ready, but we have to have the receiver on. Then Krishna can give us a signal. I'm like this. So to help us get there, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given 8 teachings, Ashtaka, all centered around the chanting of the holy name, and we're going to be discussing the first one. That's this evening's time spent together. In this first Shikshastaka, or Shikshastakam, either way, number 1, there's 7 particular teachings. So I'm going to show the teaching, and then we're going to go through each of the 7 one by one. So we can say it together, please. Cheto darpana marjanam bhava mahadavagni nirvapanam shreya kairava chandrika vidharanam vidyavadho jivanam anandam buddhivardhanam pratipadam purnamritasvadanam sarvatma snapanam param vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. So one by one, we're going to start with the first one. First line, Cheta Darpana Marjanam. Cheta Darpana, Cheta has different meanings. The word for word meaning that Srila Prabhupada has provided in his translation of Chaitanya Charitamrita. Cheta means consciousness or heart, or Cheta, we'll say this, so the heart. And Darpana, Cheta Darpana, the mirror of the heart. And Marjanam is cleansing. Just like Gundicha Marjanam. You know what Gundicha Marjanam is? This young man? You know what Gundicha is? You know who's Lord Jagannath? Lord Jagannath has a Rath Yatra every year, right? He goes from the temple to a mandir. The mandir's name is Gundicha. Yeah, light goes on. So, before he goes on Rath Yatra, before he gets on that Rath, the cart, and Yatra means festival, festival of the chariot, that's kind of in the English translation, they do something. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he was present, what did he do? He cleansed Marjana, Mandira Marjana. He cleansed the temple. This is Cheta Darpana Marjana, cleansing the mirror of the heart. So in one sense, that the heart is like a mirror, that is to say, there's the world out there. And what we perceive through our senses goes to, the senses send signals to the mind. Yes? And then the intelligence, if the intelligence is working properly, the intelligence will try to discern or discriminate, what is that sense, object, that my senses are sending the signal to the mind? Just like, listen, you can hear the fan. Now, if I didn't mention it, you wouldn't even be paying attention to it, but there's a fan. So what's that sound? Or et cetera, et cetera. That's how the process. So the discerning faculty is the intelligence. The mind is the instrument where information from the senses goes to, and then the senses pick up information to the mind, assessing the mind. And then all of that, there's an observer of all of that. The observer of all of that is the self. Conscious self. We observe the mind, we observe the senses, we may, because it's subtle, we can observe the intelligence operating or not operating. We can observe it. So that's like a mirror. It's reflecting what's going on in the subtle body and gross body. Anyway, for subtle body and gross body. Then there's the mirror. And the heart is like a mirror. So if the heart is dirty, then our perception, the consciousness is going to be dirty. We're going to have a distorted picture of what's going on out there, or what's going on in here. And therefore, the chanting of the holy name, the first experience, is this one. This is the 1950s commercial. This is a nice lady with some cleansing agent, and she's cleansing the mirror with the cleansing agent. Looks like it's a good agent. The mirror's getting really clean. So this cheta is the heart or the mind or the materially sullied consciousness, covered consciousness. Cheta. And then darpana. And marjanam. So that's what the chanting of the holy name does. Param vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam Cheto Darpana Marjanam. Here's Lord Chaitanya. Look, he's the painting. He's inside the Gundicha temple engaged in Marjanam. Gundicha Marjanam. It's a very nice pastime. It's a really nice pastime. I'll just narrate quickly. When Lord Chaitanya, with such bhakti, such enthusiasm, went prior to Rath Yatra, went to the Gundicha temple. Gundicha temple signifies Vrindavan. You know, when Krishna left Dwarka to go to Kurukshetra, to meet the residents of Vrindavan in Kurukshetra, like that. Only this is not just Kurukshetra, this is Vrindavan. His heart wants to go to Vrindavan. It's love and separation. That's Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, love and separation. So he wants to make the mandir clean so that it's an inviting place for Krishna to come. If you want Krishna to appear in your heart, first thing, make your heart clean. And then scrub it up, clean again and clean again and clean again, and however many times clean again. Very thorough cleansing of the heart. So they washed, they took buckets and buckets and buckets, a human chain chanting Hare Krishna, buckets and buckets, and splashing water all over the Gundicha temple. Rivers of water went streaming from the temple, and everything was spotless, and then they did it again. Once wasn't enough. Make the temple clean again, make your heart clean again, and again and again, like every day. So the chanting of the holy name works like that. Here's a nice statement. The chanting of Krishna's name is a purifying agent that cleanses our hearts of envy. Underlined, the root cause of our descent to this world. One can put other terms, misuse of free will, but according to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, that misuse of free will is, we want to be the imitation Purusha. There's a problem. There's a real Purusha. So there's an envy factor to be the imitation Purusha, imitation of joy or Prakriti. That's what Purusha does. Krishna is Prakriti comes from him, and it's enjoyer. It's his. It came from him. It's his. He's the enjoyer, but we're imitating and competing. Envy. Root cause of our descent to this material world, and other bad qualities that have since acquired, like lust, greed, anger. So here's a nice illustration. You've seen this illustration before, many of you. In the lower right corner, who's that? Mahavishnu. And Mahavishnu is reclining in the causal ocean, and if you look carefully, you'll see universes are coming from the pores of his body as he exhales, and surrounding him it looks like a cloud. It's the Mahatattva, the cloud of the material energy. And then on the other side of the cloud of the material energy, there's the spiritual sky. And then within the spiritual sky, there's spiritual planets. Within the spiritual planets, there's spiritual personalities, ultimately Krishna Loka. So there's Krishna and Balaram and the cowherd boys and the gopis and associates of Vrindavan worshipping Krishna. In the bottom left, it shows the four-armed form. That's Narayana of Vaikuntha. And then in the upper right, that's two-armed Krishna with his flute, and Radharani and gopis and so on. So the illustration is showing that little skinny guy saying, "No, I'm leaving. Goodbye." And Krishna is saying, "Don't make that mistake. I'm leaving. Goodbye." And so he goes into the material world to envy or a competitor Purusha instead of Parama Purusha. So here's a nice verse from Bhagavad Gita chapter 7. Let us say the verse together. Icha dvesha samutena dvandva mohena bharata sarva bhutani sammoham sargayanti parantapa. Now the color coding isn't so good, but Icha dvesha, that's the first line. Icha, what does Icha mean? It means desire. We have desire because we're part and parcel of the Supreme who has unlimited desire. Our desire is limited, and we can misuse it. And along with that, Icha comes dvesha, desire and hate. It's part of the world of duality. This morning when I woke up, I was in Detroit. 9 degrees, 09. And I reached Phoenix and it's, 68 degrees. It's winter. It'll get a little colder probably before anyway, it's really cold up there. But, wait a while, then it'll get hot. At least warm, and hot, not like Texas, like Arizona. But so this material world that we live in, duality. It's the nature of the place. Sometimes night, sometimes day. Sometimes winter, sometimes summer. Sometimes honor, sometimes dishonor. Sometimes pleasure, sometimes pain. And if there's some pleasure, wait a while. If there's some pain, wait a while. If there's at night, wait a while. It just keeps, the kaleidoscope keeps moving. You know what a kaleidoscope is? Young man, you know what a kaleidoscope is? Kaleidoscope? You never? How about you? You know one? Okay. I'm American. I know what a kaleidoscope is. It's a prism. It's kind of like a tube, and you look through the tube, and it's mirrors and mirrors and mirrors, and there's little pieces of plastic or glass, and you turn the kaleidoscope, and as you turn the kaleidoscope, the whole thing moves. You turn it a little more, the whole thing moves. Turn a little more, the whole thing moves. But it's just mirrors. and pieces of glass or pieces of plastic. But it looked like this, very interesting thing. You turn a little bit, and you turn a little bit. We'll have to get you a kaleidoscope so you know what we're talking about. But that's the material world. It's a place of duality. It doesn't stay. That's the main message. Wait a while. Whatever it is, wait a while. Something else, something else, something else, something else. Now you're a young man. Wait a while. So there's things that in this world that are permanent, but that's spiritual, like the soul. The soul doesn't get old. The soul doesn't die. The soul isn't born. Some things are eternal. But the other things that is the kaleidoscope, it's duality. So desire and hate. Icha dvesha samutena dvandava mohena. Moha means bewildered. Dvandava means two. Dualities. Bewildered by dualities, because this is a place of duality. Sometimes and sometimes. Sometimes. And it's bewildering. And some moham. Moham means bewildered, and some moham means like totally bewildered. Some complete bewilderment. So living entities take birth because of desire and hate. They take birth in the place of duality and become bewildered by that duality. So that's not nice. Who likes to be bewildered by duality? It's our life in material existence. And that's the effect of ignoring Krishna. Back again to the verse. 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Due to envy or dvesha and icha, desire. So there's that, if you pick it, this is a dirty mirror. And our mind is like a dirty mirror. But there's a way to make a dirty mirror a clean mirror. And that's this nice cleanser called the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. She's got a nice spray bottle that's spraying the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. She looks happy. Mirrors showing Krishna. Look at that, nice picture of Krishna. And so the cleansing of the heart, the agent is the holy name, because the holy name is all pure, and we're not, or at least the mind is not, and we're covered by a mind that's not clear, or not clean, dirty, covered. Mind naturally is pure, just like air is pure. Then people pollute it. Then you have to pull all the pollution out to make, the air that you can breathe. It's not polluted. It's in the mind similarly. And the cleansing agent is the heart, is the holy name. So this appearance of the holy name in one's heart, because that's where it goes. I have 7 excellences and I'm just kind of stuck on one of them. I'm going to have to move along. Rupa Goswami. Anybody here needs an introduction to who is Rupa Goswami? He's a very important person. Raise your hand if you'd like an introduction. Who is Rupa Goswami? Do you know who is Rupa Goswami? Okay, good. Rupa Goswami, we mentioned already, one of the principal associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu loaded him up completely with transcendental knowledge. And he empowered him to understand everything that he taught, and then empowered him to write everything that he understood. How'd you like that service? You got to be qualified. Rupa Goswami was very qualified. He has written in Vidagdha Madhava, one of his dramas, this nice description of the chanting of the holy name. Would you like to hear the nice description? There's 3 parts. First, he does the Mahima section. How much nectar these 2 syllables Krishna have, who can say? The glories of the holy name. Then, when the holy name is vibrated by the tongue, it's like the holy name is dancing on the tongue. It's so sweet and so nectarian. One wants many, many, many tongues because it's so sweet. That's the vibrating part of mantra chanting. Then there's the hearing part of mantra chanting. Second part. When that sound, so with so much nectar, enters the holes of the ear, it's so much nectar, one desires millions of ears. That would look funny. Millions of ears. 2 ears is fine, but millions of ears. Because it's so sweet, I want to hear more, I want to hear more. And then the third, so you vibrate, you hear, and if you hear nicely, something wonderful happens. What's that something wonderful? The holy name enters the courtyard of the heart. If you don't hear nicely, it just remains a material sound. We'll discuss this on Sunday morning. Your ear only hears a material sound. It's not a material sound, but we don't hear the spiritual sound. If you hear with the spiritual ear, it enters the heart. Rupa Goswami's poetry says, and when it enters the heart, the mind becomes stunned. And the senses become inert. It's called yoga. Yoga Indriya Samyama. From the Bhagavatam. Yoga means controlling the mind and senses. Say negative. If there's no control of the mind and no control of the senses, that's not yoga. Yoga means controlling the mind and senses. And how to control the mind? The mind is wild. We'll hear some more as tomorrow morning. You hear some more about how wild the mind is. Whew. We have our own experience, but the mind can be controlled. And how is the mind controlled? When you hear the sound vibrated by the tongue, it goes, it enters the courtyard of the heart, and the mind becomes stunned, and the senses become inert. That's yoga. So that it's just, that's the effect, if you're hearing nicely. There's this teaching in Bhakti Sandarbha. Bhakti Sandarbha is one of 6 Sandarbhas or writings by Jiva Goswami, who was a disciple, his nephew, and disciple of Rupa Goswami, who learned from everything from Rupa Goswami, who learned everything from Lord Chaitanya. There's this nice description of a Chhatra Bandhu. What's a Chhatra Bandhu? It's someone who is born a Brahmana, but has lost it. They lost their Brahminical quality. One of our book distributors in Texas met a young man, grad student from Nepal, born and raised in a Brahmin family, strict Brahmin principles, pristine in his character, pristine in his conduct, pristine in all things. He came to do graduate studies in America, and he lost it. Became a bandhu, Brahma bandhu. He started eating chicken and, just like became westernized. And when he met the devotee with the Bhagavad Gita, his heart, he started crying. Anyway, and he took the Bhagavad Gita and held it to his head and said, I'm gonna leave these bad habits behind. Just like that. I mean, because he knows better. And here's the medicine to take to cure that disease of infection of tamagun, rajagun that we're all exposed to also. So there was a Chhatra Bandhu who had committed the worst of sins. And he went to a Brahmana, what should I do, what should I do? And the Brahmana recommended atonement. The Chaturabandhu said, I can't do what you said, since my mind is fickle. Tell me what can be done using the body and the words. The Brahmana said, if you can't do all of this, I will tell you something else which is easy if you will do what I say. O son, whether in hunger, thirst, or falling down, while standing up or lying down, departing or going, sing the name Govinda. Now this is a reference from Vishnu Dharmottara Purana, spoken by, or recorded in Jiva Goswami's Sandarbhas. Here's another nice example. You all recognize this nice example. There's Ajamila, who was also Brahmana and became fallen. We won't go into how he became fallen. And he lived his life very sinfully. He cohabited with a prostitute and had many children with the prostitute. Not married, just cohabited. And when his age came, it was time for death. There on the right side, that's the Yamadutas. And he called out, seeing the Yamadutas, he screamed. He didn't just like scream, ah! He screamed the name of his youngest son, Narayana, because he was attached to his young son. This is how old this man is, but he's still producing children. Very, very fallen person. So this is a verse from Canto 6, Chapter 2. By following the Vedic ritualistic ceremonies or undergoing atonement, sinful men do not become as purified as by chanting once the holy name of Hari. The topic is the first experience when one begins chanting and one continues chanting seriously, Chaita Darpana Marjanam. And when one becomes mature in the stage of cleansing, then one of the things that's part of material existence is taken away. That's fear. So where does, according to the Bhagavatam, I like Srimad Bhagavatam. Most of us like Srimad Bhagavatam. I love Srimad Bhagavatam. And there's a nice verse that speaks about fear. And the verse says, fear arises, Bhayam dutiyam abhiniveshatak syat. Syat means arises. Fear arises. Bhayam, fear arises when there's abhinivesh, dutiyam, there's absorption in duality. Same as this verse from Bhagavad Gita. Absorption in duality. There's some moham, make one's mind bewildered. And one of the bewildering influences is fear. Why? Because we're eternal. We don't want to lose eternality, but we won't lose eternality. We may lose the body. We may lose objects connected to the body, like mine, my stuff. On the flight on the way over here, I was preparing for what happens after I leave here. I'm going to Portland after Phoenix. So one of the things I'm going to do, they've asked me to do, is describe pure devotees found in Canto 1 Srimad Bhagavatam. And one of them is Narada Muni. And Narada Muni, in Canto 1 Srimad Bhagavatam, describes his previous life before he was Narada Muni. And when he was in his previous life, he was the son of a maidservant. Many things happened. And his mother died. He received training from the Bhaktivedantas for 2 seasons, the rainy season, and what follows the rainy season? The autumn, the spring season. So those 2 seasons he passed through. And so he got their association of these elevated souls. He became an elevated soul. Something happened. Misfortune happened. The misfortune that happened, it happens to all of us. Sometimes it happens to devotees and they can't handle it. His mother died. He was young, like 5, 6 years old. His mother was bitten by a serpent. and she died. And rather than boo-hoo, he immediately accepted this place of shelter, my only place, because she had only one son, and he had only one mother, and she was very attached to him. She cared for him, affection, everything, and poof, she's gone. He didn't become fearful and start, becoming disturbed, because by that good association, he had become spiritually elevated. He had shelter. He took it as that there's a plan of the Lord. I don't know what that plan is. He wants me to become fully dependent upon him, so I'll become fully dependent upon him. And that's what he did. Fully dependent. He was already very dependent, now fully dependent. Because he didn't have any other shelter. He's a little boy. Who's going to cook lunch? Mom's gone. Nothing. Didn't have a place to stay. Anyway, fear is anticipating something like that may happen, and sure enough, sometimes it does happen. And when it does happen, fear arises. Why? Absorption and duality. Dvitiyam, abhinivesh. Look at this, here's the verse. I'll say the verse. Bayam dutiyam biniveshi taksyat ishadape tasya viparyano smrtihi tanmaya yato buddha abhajitam bhakyaika yesham guru devatatma. This is the Navayogendra speaking to King Nimi, and Bhayam, fear arises. Here's the translation. Fear arises when a living entity misidentifies himself as the material body because of absorption in the external illusory energy of the Lord. When the living entity thus turns away from the Supreme Lord, he also forgets his own constitutional position as a servant of the Lord. This bewildering, fearful condition is effected by the potency for illusion called Maya. Therefore, an intelligent person, this is the second half of the verse. You're all intelligent persons. You'd be somewhere else if you weren't intelligent. You're intelligent persons. That's the symptom. Maybe some more, some less, but you're intelligent persons. We're giving credit to all of you. Should engage unflinchingly in the unalloyed devotional service of the Lord under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master, whom he should accept as his worshipable deity and his very life and soul. So in the mature stage of cleansing, there's no fear. How do you get to the no fear? Chanting. Bhakti itself does not depend on other elements, and so much more so for the holy name. I can spin out on this one. I'll spin out a little bit. 2 minutes. Over the Thanksgiving holiday, I was in Houston, Texas, along with Shyam Sundar and a bunch of other devotees. 13 classes on one topic, Madhurya Kandambini. And two of the 13 classes were focused, because Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur focuses, what's on the screen here. Bhakti does not depend on other elements. Bhakti appears without material cause. There's nothing material that can check it. Bhakti is independent. Bhakti is independent, nothing material. It's spiritual, and it's bestowed upon you by Bhakti Devi. And she didn't have any rules. She must this or that. You can stamp your foot or cry or, she's not going to bring Bhakti to your life. It's bestowed. And who is it bestowed by? One who is carrying bhakti. Anyway, it's a nice topic. Bhakti is independent. The holy name is Krishna. He's also independent. And it reveals the spiritual form or swarup. That's in the higher stages of Chaitadarpana Marjanam. This is a nice painting of Gopakumar. Gopakumar. He was chanting Gopal mantra, Madan Gopal mantra, and by chanting and chanting and chanting and chanting, he made it to Krishna Loka. When he saw Krishna, Krishna said, "Where have you been? I was waiting for you. I thought last life you would come, but you didn't come. The time before that I thought maybe you would come, but you didn't come, and you've come. Please don't ever leave again." And he embraced him. And Gopakumar melted. And his spiritual form was a cowherd boy. Okay, that's one of 7. Now we're going on to number 2. Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam. Bhava is very different than bhava. Bhava means ecstasy, and bhava means material existence. They're very different. Agni means fire, and Dava Agni is a blazing fire, and Maha is a blazing forest fire. In Nirvapanam, it's material existence that's likened to a blazing forest fire is extinguished. In the news, there was this big blazing fire in California. I don't know if you saw, but fire is dangerous. Fire is dangerous. Don't play with fire. And when there's a big blazing fire, it's very dangerous. There were 2 forest fires in Vrindavan. And what did Krishna do? First he asked the cowherd boys, "Close your eyes. You're in for a big surprise." They closed their eyes. The fire was gone. But that's not how forest fires are normally extinguished. The fire brigades can try to put out the fire, but when there's a downpour of rain, that puts out the fire. So the chanting of the holy name is not just water, it's madhu, it's honey, it's very sweet. And it puts out the fire of material existence. Repeated birth and death. As it purifies the heart, Krishna's name also protects sincere chanters from any further contamination from the worldly energy and those affected by it. There's a verse, Nitya Vairina, that's the Kama Rupena. Kama is lust. The form of lust is the eternal enemy of the living entity. And it's from Bhagavad Gita, Dushparena Analena Cha. It's never satisfied and it burns like anala, like fire. Forest fires are very dangerous. Krishna discusses this in Bhagavad Gita. Can somebody get a Bhagavad Gita? 6, look up, get the verse 20 through 23, chapter 6. I'm just going to read the verses. So because we just had Gita Jayanti, you're all very familiar. All 4 of these verses are translated as one verse from Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita. Here's the translation. The perfection is characterized by one's ability to see the self by the pure mind, and to relish and rejoice in the capital S self. In that joyous state, one is situated in boundless transcendental happiness, realized through transcendental senses, thus established, one never departs from the truth, and upon gaining this, he thinks there's no greater gain. Being situated in such a position, one is never shaken, even in the midst of the greatest difficulty. This indeed is actual freedom from miseries arising from material contact. We're jivas, we're spiritual energy immersed in the material energy, and the material energy burns. So what to do? You know, it's not always like a blazing forest fire, it's not always like that, but the threefold miseries. A university program in Texas, someone asked, what's this threefold miseries thing? Because Sanatana Goswami asked Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who am I? And why do I have to undergo the threefold miseries? So they wanted to know, what's the threefold miseries? Miseries that arise from the body and the mind, or the mind, or both. Miseries that arise from other living entities. Sometimes it's mosquitoes, and sometimes it's a nasty person, and sometimes it's, different living entities. So other living entities, the body of the mind, other living entities, and natural disturbances. Go to Detroit and wake up in the morning to 9-degree Fahrenheit temperature. You can turn on the heater, but it was still cold. Anyway. And come to Arizona, and the hot summer, it's blazing hot. So what do you do? Anyway. You become a devotee. You become like what's described here. In the greatest of difficulty. In the greatest of difficulty, one can remain completely peaceful. Really? Really. But there's a condition to be peaceful like that. You have to know who you are. You have to be connected with the Supreme. You have to have a mind that's pure. Supposing your mind's not pure, what happens? Suffer the threefold miseries. I don't like to suffer the threefold miseries. Why do I have to? Because you're not pure. That was his question. Why do I have to suffer? Because we're not attached to suffering. We're attached to the sources of suffering. And we don't let go. And we cling to the sources of suffering. What a misfortune. Can you let go of the things that you cling to? Yes. But you have to cling to something else instead. What's that something else? Transcendence, or that which is pure. And that's the holy name. Bhavamahadavagni Devapanam. So this verse is speaking about where the mind is absorbed. As you know, a phrase that's popular these days arises from Buddhism, mindfulness. I was asked some time ago to speak about mindfulness because it's popular. So I was staying at a person's home who was a business guy. So I asked him, is this used in business? He said, oh yes. He said, we're all of us executives are obliged to take a seminar, several part seminar on the mindful manager. Just borrowing from something spiritual and trying to make something material spiritual. The mindful manager. Supposing you're a good Buddhist, or you're trying to find out about what does Buddhism have to say? Is it something that's going to help me? So here's what Buddhism says. Many of you know. The root cause of suffering is desire. To become free from suffering, become free from desire. To become free from desire, what's the procedure? 2 things. We do these 2 things, but more completely than so. One is live a life of goodness. At least we're encouraged to live a life of goodness. In his case, Buddha's teaching was ahimsa, non-violence. And then other things, cleanliness, truthfulness, mercy, compassion, charity, goodness. Live a life, frame your life in the quality of goodness. Live that kind of a lifestyle. That's number 1. That's external. And then what's the internal is mindfulness. Be in the moment. And there's a philosophy. You want to hear what the philosophy is? The philosophy is consciousness is momentary. Kshanik Vijnana Vad is the doctrine. Vada means doctrine. The doctrine of all there is the moment. Because the past is gone, the future hasn't happened, so all there is the moment. So be in the moment, be in the moment, be in the moment. Live in a life of goodness and be in the moment. And when you get really good at being in the moment, what happens? You go on the other side of the moment. What's over there? Nothing. Nirvana, the Sanskrit, nirvana means cessation of material existence. Their definition, cessation of material existence, because there isn't spiritual existence, all there is nothing, or nothingness, or void. Nirvana, to them, that's enlightenment. Nothingness. Yummy. The Vedic wisdom doesn't say the root cause of suffering is desire. Because we say, Vedic teachings say, living entities are fragmental parts of Krishna. It's right in Bhagavad Gita. Mame vangsa jiva loke, jiva bhuta sanatana. All living entities are these angsas, tiny fragmental angsas of Krishna. So what Krishna has, we have. Krishna has desire. So we have tiny desire. Really tiny, but we have it. So the problem isn't having desire. The problem is ignorance. Because when ignorance covers a living entity, then you have ignorant desire. When you have ignorant desire, then you have ignorant activity. When you have ignorant activity, you suffer. The problem isn't desire, it's misuse of desire. Misuse of free will. It's misuse of free will. So properly use free will, and you're home free. How do I do that? Bhakti. Starting with chanting of the holy name. Starting with chanting of the holy name. Because it awakens bhakti. If it's done carefully, properly. So that we do mindfulness too. We live life we're encouraged to live a life in goodness and be mindful. Be mindful of what? Krishna. Manmana. It's mindfulness. I'm not doing so well. It's taking too long to get through. I'm just still in number 2 out of 7. So, who is Lord Kapila? Lord Kapila is the teacher of Sankhya philosophy, right? Lord Kapila taught Sankhya philosophy. Something happened. There was a king named Sagara who was doing Ashvamedha yagyas, horse sacrifices. And he had done 99. He was about to do number 100. And Indra got worried. Uh-oh, maybe he wants to take over my kingdom. So what did Indra do? He came and stole the horse. And he went and hid the horse in a place where he thought they wouldn't find it. He in the ashram of Kapila. The long story, I'm not going to go through the whole story. The king sent his 60,000 sons, find that horse. He couldn't go find that horse. So they went again. They went all the way down to the lower region where Kapila Dev is engaged in meditation, and they saw the horse. So they thought, aha, he's the thief. So 60,000 sons attempted to attack him. Now the painting shows fire came from the eyes of Kapila. It didn't come from the eyes of Kapila. The sinfulness immediately burnt their body into a pile of ashes from their sinful tendency. That's ignorance acting on desire. It can be very problematic. Don't mess with Lord Kapila Dev and his horse. It wasn't even his horse. Indra put the horse there. Here's Sutta Goswami speaking to the sages of Naimisharanya. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Lord Hari, the congregational chanting of whose holy names destroys all sinful reactions, and the offering of obeisances unto whom, this is the holy name, relieves all material suffering. So it's a good program. Canto 12. And in Canto 6, we hear this nice teaching, Shukadeva Goswami teaching to Maharaj Parikshit. Other processes cannot be successful because even after following such methods, one takes the fruit of activities again, unable to control his mind, which is contaminated by the base qualities of material nature. That is to say, the chanting of the holy name has the power to uproot the tendencies. Maybe some of you have done some gardening. I know a few people in the room here who have done some gardening. I'm looking at one of them. He likes gardening. Shyam Sundar smiling. He likes gardening. He has a fantastic garden. You should check it out someday. Along with gardening, growing the things that you want, you have to water what you want, but you also have to pull weeds. So supposing you don't pull the weeds, you just clip the tops. What happens? The root's there, wait a while, keep watering, and the weed's going to grow again because the root's there. Is it possible to pull the root out? Yes, it takes work. You get a whole basket filled with weeds, but you keep doing it and keep doing it because there's more seeds in the soil. You keep watering the soil, more weeds grow. Just keep, harvesting the weeds by uprooting them, and you get the thing that you want. And the roots of the weeds grow faster than the roots of what you want. So it's not just watering, it's pulling the weeds. And other processes can clip the tendency, but the root is still there. Unable to control the mind. Vasanas, tendencies. So what's the solution? This downpour of rain that extinguishes the blazing fire of material existence. And everything's nice by chanting of the holy name. Karmadi nirdhita kintucha bhakti bhajam. This is a verse from Brahma Samhita. Brahma Samhita is spoken by Lord Brahma. Here it's just showing Govinda receiving prayers from Lord Brahma. But Govinda minimizes or nullifies the reactionary influences of devotees' past deeds. That's what is stated, and it's true. Not just prarabdha karma, that's the stuff that's happening now. The tendency itself of misdeeds, bhakti bhajam, all forms. Chanting, here's a nice teaching. You ready for a nice teaching? When, according to our acharyas, when it speaks of the name, it's implied the other processes of bhakti because they're connected to the holy name, and so the other processes of bhakti can also free one from material contamination because they're purifying. So name, etc., namadi, beginning with the holy name. That any of the activities of Bhagavad Dharma. Whoops, excuse me. So this is a teaching, Jiva Goswami, Bhakti Sandarbha, by performance of kirtan. One attains faith in the Lord far greater than faith attained by meditation or any other spiritual practice. By meditation performed in the Satya Yuga, one does not attain the same deep faith in the Supreme Lord. Special dispensation for this dark age of Kali from Skanda Purana. This is quoted in Bhakti Sandarbha. In Kali Yuga, the great devotees worship the Lord by performing kirtan. These words of Skanda Purana, glorifying the performance of kirtan, which bring great faith in the Supreme Lord. The Lord, who is very merciful to the fallen souls, does not reveal any spiritual path better than kirtan. We've completed 2 out of 7. 5 more to go. I'll try to do better. Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vidharanam. Shreya is a common name. Her brother is named Shreya. Huh? Preyas. Shreya. Same word, same dhatu, same root. Shreya. No, good fortune. And good fortune may come from many things. Piety is one of the sources of good fortune, but chanting is more than just piety. The white lotus of good fortune. Here's a white lotus of good fortune. And the white lotus of good fortune is what happens in lotuses. Have you noticed? During the daytime, the lotus opens. At nighttime, the lotus closes. And the sun rises and slowly it opens again. And then the sun sets, it slowly closes again. So what to do in this dark age of Kali when it's night? Lotus is going to close. Answer, chant the holy name. And the white lotus of good fortune opens. Even the dark age of Kali. It's a metaphor, very poetic expression. And it's the Chandrika, the moonshine, is Vitaranam, it's spreading. The white lotus of good fortune. It's the rays of the benediction moon expanding the petals of the white lotus, even in the darkness of Kali Yuga. How is it that the moon, not the lotus, has become the source of benediction? You understand the question? The white lotus of good fortune. But it's because of the moonshine. Shreya Kairva Chandrika Vitaranam. The Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. And when the benediction moon spreads, the white lotus of good fortune opens. It's not the white lotus of good fortune, it's the chanting. Chanting awakens Shreyas, pure devotion to Krishna. The soul's dormant propensity to serve the Lord with love, and further chanting revives the loving devotion which qualifies one for the greatest good fortune, Krishna's association. Yay! That's higher stages of bhakti, by the way. We're not there yet. We're not at the higher stages of bhakti yet. According to the stages, unfolding of these stages of bhakti, we're encouraged to become absorbed in hearing and chanting, Shravanam Kirtanam. And in the higher stages, one is absorbed not just in Shravanam Kirtanam, but the object of Shravanam and Kirtanam. There's bhajana and there's bhajaniya, the hearing and chanting, and the object of hearing and chanting. So the mature stage is becoming attached to having Krishna's association. But sometimes we don't get Krishna's association, so what do we feel? Separation. That's like Lord Chaitanya cleansing the Gundicha temple. He wants Krishna's association. So he's cleaning the temple. He's making the heart suited place for receiving the Lord, so he'll appear. He's so eager, so eager, so eager. Layers and layers and layers of metaphor, but it's the consciousness of doing what we do so that we can have that direct association of the personality of Godhead. In the higher stages of bhakti, that's the absorption. Asakti, absorption. Shreya Shrutim Bhaktim, this is a phrase taken from Lord Brahma's prayers, Canto 10, Chapter 14. Brahma's prayers. After stealing the calves and cowherd boys, he realized he made a big boo-boo. So he goes before Krishna and offers prayers. My dear Lord, devotional service unto you is the best path for self-realization. Shreya Shrutim Bhaktim. Shreya Shrutim Bhaktim. And a very similar idea is presented in Katha Upanishad. Katha Upanishad is a nice discussion between two. On the left, holding the scepter with the skull at the top, Yamaraj. And he's having a discussion with this young boy named Nachiketa. So here's the verse with Shreyas in the verse. There's the Shreyas word in the verse, here's the translation. The wise reject the preyas and choose instead the Shreyas, that which is permanently beneficial. This is Yamaraj to this young student. The foolish choose the preyas with its resultant conceptions of gain and the acquisition of fleeting pleasures. Clear? We're ready to move on. We've completed 3 out of 7. Yay. Vidya. Vadhu. Jivanam. Jivanam. That's the life of the wife of Vidya. It's the life of the wife of Vidya. So, in the process of bhakti, chanting is one of the activities in the process of bhakti. And when you engage in the process of bhakti, unwanted things within the heart, potentially at least, can be cleared, anartha-nivritti. According to the teachings of bhakti, Rupa Goswami and others that write about bhakti, these are the first 3 things. Sins and reactions to previous sins are gradually washed away. And then as one anartha-nivritti becomes matured, then becomes steady. There's some newer people here, so I'm a little anxious about newer people not following all this terminology. According to Rupa Goswami, bhakti has stages. It starts with a seed. And then the seed, when it's watered, starts to sprout. And then it goes through different stages, becomes a creeper, eventually becomes flower, a bud, and then a flower, and then a fruit. That's the mature stage, prema. But it starts way down here. just a seed, watering this, nurturing the seed. The seed of bhakti, bhakti lata bij. So as the seed is watered and nourished, it starts to grow. But there's in between where we are and where we want to go, there's unsteadiness. Unsteadiness due to unwanted things in the heart that make bhakti unsteady. Our experience is unsteady because our hearts are not pure. When the heart becomes very pure, not necessarily perfect yet, but the stage of, as you see, it shows on the screen, nishtha. And the stage of nishtha, the chanting, when you're in that stage of nishtha, chanting, it becomes enriched with knowledge, that is, knowledge that's already within, but it becomes awakened. That which vidya is covered by avidya, is covered by ignorance. When the ignorance is cleansed, knowledge comes out. Causelessly, knowledge comes, knowledge arises from bhakti and from chanting. It's how it works. It's really nice. We should continue reading Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam and so forth. And there may be things we don't understand, that's okay. Go through the purification process, and as the cleansing goes on, then you'll start to understand things you couldn't understand before. That's how it works. Knowledge of the science of devotional service becomes how you see and how you live your life. Then, following that stage of nishtha comes ruchi and asakti, and I'm not going to go through all that. Here's a nice teaching. On the right-hand side, that's Narada Muni. On the left-hand side, that's King Prachinibhari. And King Prachinibhari was a nice man, but too much attached to fruitive activities because he wanted to enjoy the fruits of pious activities. So he did lots of pious activities because he was a nice man, a nice king, but he was too much attached to fruitive activities. And Narada is telling him, here's what happens with fruitive activities. It covers who you really are. So instead, try for understanding who you are. And that's awakened by Krishna consciousness. So here's a little bit about this. There she is, the bride, the vadhu, the young bride of transcendental knowledge. She's the life, or the chanting is the life of the wife of Vidya. So she's got a husband. She's going to get married. She's the bride. And getting married to the chanter of the holy name is the holy name. It's the life of the wife of transcendental knowledge. It's a nice metaphor. I hope you get it. We're going to move on. Uh-oh. I'm not doing so well. I'm talking too much and we're not going to... It's already 8:20. What to do? Help. There's a nice verse amongst 18,000 verses in Srimad Bhagavatam, the Atmarama verse. And in this Atmarama verse, Sutta Goswami says, all different varieties of Atmaramas, those who take pleasure in the Atma, Atmarama, especially those established on the path of self-realization, though freed from all kinds of material bondage, desire to render unalloyed devotional service. This means that the Lord possesses transcendental qualities and therefore can attract everyone, including liberated souls. I'll break it down. If Atmaramas, those that don't have any interest in material stuff, are interested in the topics of the personality of Godhead, it means that the qualities that they're attracted to are not material. Logic? Yes? Anyone confused? You're all nodding. Okay, good. It's an important verse. Even already liberated persons, they're attracted to these topics of the personality of God and the chanting of the holy name. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained to Sanatana Goswami the Atmarama verse, with the exception of devotional service, all other methods of self-realization are like the nipples on the neck of a goat. No, what's nipples on the neck of a goat? Here's a goat. He's got this little thing hanging under his chin. Looks like nipples, but it doesn't give milk. It looks like. And so I'm going to go forward. By rendering devotional service unto the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, one immediately acquires causeless knowledge and detachment from the world. Now this is a verse you see in the painting, that's Sutta, and Sutta speaking at Naimisharanya. We visited Naimisharanya, it's a very nice place, North India, way up north. And there's 60,000 sages. He didn't have an amplification system. I don't know how they could all hear him. But they're asking questions and he's giving nice answers. So he's giving this explanation that causelessly knowledge and detachment arise from bhakti. You don't need to make a separate endeavor for knowledge and detachment. You pursue bhakti and knowledge and detachment arise. Vidyavadhu jivanam. It's the life of the young bride of all transcendental knowledge. A result of acquiring devotion is that devotees become illumined with spiritual knowledge. It happens. Practice devotional service seriously for some time and observe what happens. Something happens. Two things happen. Covering get removed and that which is dormant within the heart becomes awakened. So what happens? And that which is dormant within the heart, there's knowledge. It's in a seed form, but covered. Dormant. How long can seeds stay in a seed form? Hundreds of years. Depends on the species. Hundreds of years. But when the seed is sprouted, that which is inside the seed starts to come out. The life that's within the seed starts to come out. So transcendental knowledge is already with us, but just covered. And bhakti brings it out. The covering is removed. It's like a seed. When I was young, I still am. I was, a very curious kind of person. So I wanted to know, is it true? Seeds have life inside. So I did a little experiment as a kid. I got a mango seed, and I wanted to know if you could have a mango tree from a mango seed. And it takes a long time to get a mango tree from a mango seed, but I did what you're supposed to do. I found out what you're supposed to do. And you put a certain medium, and the hard pit of the mango has something inside it. There's the pulp around the mango seed. But inside the seed, this hard seed, you make it soft, and there's life inside. So I softened it, it took a long time, and gradually this little, the seed inside started to grow. And just give it some more time, and it's going to be a little plant, and the little plant becomes a tree, and who knows how many years, it'll become a mango tree from that seed. Inside. So same, inside us. Everything's there. It's already there, but it's covered. It's got this tough shell on the outside saying, I want to enjoy. That's the nature of this shell. And how do we get rid of that? You know, the cleansing process, starting with chanting. Okay. Now this is the explanation. This is meant to have two parts. So I'm only going to go through what I went through because of the time. But the rest does the same thing. That is to say, each of these 7 points has an explanation, is connected to scripture, is connected to the practical experience of those who have taken the time and trouble to chant carefully. And the final result, sarvatma snapadam, that's this final phrase, sarvatma snapadam. Sarva atma snapanam. It's like taking a bath. Snapanam, shower, bath. The soul bath. But a transcendental. Param. Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. I'm sorry, I didn't get to finish. It's 8:25. The clock is telling me to stop talking. So let's see if there's some discussion so that we can all do what we need to do, and we'll see you again tomorrow morning, hopefully. Comments or questions? Anyone?
Can we quickly go through the other excellences just by name?
Sure. Anandam Buddhivardhanam. Ananda. You know what that is? Bliss. Ambodhi. Ocean. Vardhanam. Increasing. It increases the ocean of Ananda. Now we're going into Bhava Bhakti already. From the beginning. Now it's very elevated. Bhava Bhakti, Ananda, Ambodhi, Vardhanam. The Bhava stage, because this is following, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's the Shikshastaka is following the 9 stages of Bhakti. Rupa Goswami wrote the 9 stages of Bhakti. Where did he get it from? Lord Chaitanya. Where did Lord Chaitanya get it from? Scripture. It's rooted in Scripture. But this particular verse is discussing the Bhava stage. And what follows the Bhava stage? Prema stage. In this stage, ecstasies of emotion have not fully matured, and fully matured is the Prema stage. So there's an ocean, and if the ocean started to expand, you'd have a problem. But the ocean of Ananda, no problem. Anandam Buddhivardhanam. That's Radharani. Yes? Ananda Chinmaya Rasa. Ananda Chinmaya Rasa, that's Radharani. You get to associate, because Bhakti personified as Bhakti Devi. Bhakti Devi is an expansion of Radharani. If any one of us engaged in devotional service, it's by the mercy of Radharani. Because Radharani's expansion, one of her expansions, is Bhakti Devi. And we're getting, just touched by Bhakti Devi. Wow. And then keep going, and it can expand the ocean of Ananda. Or increase your direct experience, direct contact and experience with this pleasure potency of Krishna. Ananda Chinmaya Rasa. Now, there's an alternative. You can stay involved in the material energy, Maya Shakti. That's not a good idea. Here's the good idea. Radharani is the good idea. She's the Ananda portion of Krishna's internal potency. And look, here she is, Yogamaya. This deity of Yogamaya is a very nice deity. It's a deity that's found in in Vangsivat. How many here have been to Vrindavan? When you go to Vrindavan, one of the places perhaps you'll visit, it's a little remote, but it's a nice place. It's one of the places, the different places Krishna performed rasa dance. One of it is Vangshivat. Vat means tree. So Krishna played his Vangsi at Vangshivat and called the gopis, and they came. The power of Krishna's flute playing forcibly carried them. They wanted to come, but just very. And when they came, Radharani was there, and Radharani, and expansion of Radharani, the Ananda portion of Krishna's internal potency, Yogamaya, there she is. There's a deity at Vangshivat, and she's worshipped very nicely, as you can see. It's a simple deity. Here's a very nice teaching by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. That person is a true preceptor, true father, true mother, true friend. Also, only if they teach one to always remember the holy name of Sri Hari alone is everything. This is Kevalastakam. We're going to be hearing Kevalastakam a few times. Here's excellence number 6. This was your question. Pratipadam, at every step. Purna, amrita, full nectar. Asvadanam. This is bhava leading into the prema stage. Amrita is that by which one becomes deathless. So the churning of the milk ocean produced nectar the demigods and the demons both wanted. They wanted samarasa, that's the expansion of the goddess of fortune, Lakshmi, giving them somarasa. But far beyond somarasa is the purna amrita. And that's the same, attaining our eternal position. And purna amrita ambudhi increases the ocean of the happiness of devotional service. And because of time, I'm going to go pratipadam at every step. Purnamritas, look at Prabhupada's smile. It enables one to taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. When devotees finally achieve the perfection of chanting, they taste the full nectar of loving devotion to Krishna. A nectar that makes the bliss of liberation seem insignificant. And then here's the last, number 7. Sarva atmasnapanam. Sarva atmasnapanam. Param vijayati Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. Anything else? It's 8:32 and I'm in anxiety about taking too much time. Okay, we'll end. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. I just want you all to know that, as Maharaj said, he came from Detroit this morning, and he came straight from the airport to the temple. So, Vikram Maharaj is already 3 hours ahead, so it's really late for Maharaj. And
30 p.m. where I got up.
So, a very, very big round of applause. I think we didn't do enough justice. So, as you can imagine, Maharaj is probably tired. There's going to be Shine Aarti right now. And just a reminder for tomorrow. Normally, we have Mangala Aarti at 4:30 and then Japa starting from 5:10. Maharaj's class is going to be after the deity darshan and Guru Puja at 7:30. So, we'll have darshan Aarti at 7 o'clock, then Guru Puja, and then there'll be a class at 7:30, followed by breakfast. And then there's going to be a little bit of kirtan, And then we're going to have class by His Grace Shyamasundar Prabhu. And Maharaj's class is going to be chanting with quality. And then at 10:30, the class by His Grace Shyamasundar Prabhu is going to be tools to improve your chanting. So very, very important classes tomorrow morning. So make sure you join us. And then there's going to be lunch provided at 12:30 tomorrow. And after lunch, Maharaj will be giving a class at 3:30. But we have very important class at 1:30. My Journey with the Holy Name. Again, please attend all these classes. It will help you improve your chanting. If you have questions, you can ask questions to your peers here as well. So that's tomorrow. And then Maharaj will be here at 3:30, chanting with respect. It's going to be the title. And then Gora Arti, and then another class by His Grace Shyamasundar Prabhu. Learning from the life of our acharyas. Again, very important because Maharaj has been mentioning some acharyas today as well. And then Sunday, we'll go over the schedule tomorrow, but it's a 64-round day. So we try and prepare you for the 64 rounds. Last year, we had several children, young children, 6 to 9, 6 to 10, chant 64 rounds. And some newcomers also chanted 64 rounds. So please come and take part in that also. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna, Shayanarti, and then there'll be prasadam served. Hare Krishna. Thank you all for coming.